My name is Alan Nishio. I'm president of the board of Little Tokyo Service Center that provides community development such as affordable housing as well as social services. I work as chair of the California Japanese American Community Leadership Council, which is a statewide organization of nonprofits in the Japanese American community, with our main focus being on the preservation and development of the three remaining Japantowns. I was born in Manzanar, California on August 9th, 1945, which was the day that the U.S. government dropped an atomic bomb on Nagasaki. I knew I was born in Manzanar, but I didn't find out what Manzanar was until I was a senior in college. That growing up, I always heard about camp and things, but I had just assumed that it was just like an agricultural camp in Central California that my family happened to be at with other Japanese Americans. But it wasn't until I was in college doing research for a paper that I ran across the term Manzanar in a book that I was found in the stacks. And it said Manzanar, one of 10 relocation centers in which Japanese Americans were interned during World War II. What I found out is that no one talked about camp because our community was embarrassed, that we felt somehow that it was our fault, that we were put in camp because we were disloyal, we couldn't be trusted, we didn't act American enough. I got this in this middle of the 60s during the height of the civil rights movement. An event that really sparked my passion for kind of social justice and political change was I was a freshman at Berkeley in 1964, and that was during what was called the free speech movement. Prior to that, if the students wanted to have a program or wanted to post any flyers, they had to get the permission of the administration, to be able to post anything. The students at Berkeley kind of fought against that and organized a student strike that basically closed down the entire campus. One week I went to class and then there were picket lines, and I saw my TA in a class and many of the students walking this picket line, and I just kind of, I don't know what they're doing, so I crossed over and kind of got yelled at, and I go to my class and like only about a half of the students are there. So then I wonder what's going on, so I became educated, and so I got politically involved. Another time was actually during the birth of Asian American Studies. A major focus was on getting us involved in linking students to the community. We grew up with this kind of notion that Japanese Americans were all fine, we were a model minority. But when we came to Little Tokyo as college students, we became involved and we began to see there were major problems in Little Tokyo. There was poverty. There were people that were Japanese speaking that didn't have access to basic services. And so it just exposed, I think, me and many of my generation to issues of social justice and poverty and linking that to our community. I got very much involved in the issue of redress for Japanese Americans who were incarcerated during World War II. And that was a monumental kind of experience for me, because when I first got involved, I didn't think we had a chance at really winning redress. We saw it as a political issue. But I remember we did a program, and this Issei woman came up to me and gave me this kind of crumpled $5 bill. And she said, "This is all I can afford, but use it so that we can win," And I found out later from talking to people that that $5 represented about 25% of her food allowance for the week. So I said that this is a serious motion, that we need to take it seriously and not just do it for symbolic victory, but actually to win. We, I think, understood that in order for us to win redress, as Japanese Americans, we had to reach out to other communities that saw this as a civil rights, civil liberties issue. So the first group of people that came forward to support our demand for redress were African Americans, and then Latinos, and then churches, and then labor unions, And these are people that understood the importance of uniting and supporting issues of social justice, And we as a community had to understand we have a responsibility of making bridging and coalitions, etc. It can't be asking people, let's say the Muslim community, will support the Japanese Americans. When we find opportunities where we can provide support and provide some experience or understanding of things, we need to reach out and build those bridges. Little Tokyo is very important to me, and it's the core of what my work is. But I always try to maintain a network with other communities and other issues. I talk about generations, and each generation we have a responsibility of not just sustaining, but building and passing on. We've tried to keep a community that's relevant to us. Your job is to maintain it, but develop it so it continues to be relevant for you and pass it on to your children. because that's how communities continue to kind of survive and thrive, is that people embrace it and they become empowered by it and they pass it on to a next generation. And I'm at the point in my life where I am trying to make sure there is something really good and valuable and relevant that we can pass on.